folks, welcome back to Peach Guitars. My name is Jack and you join us on another instalment of Around the Showroom, part 4 in fact. So in previous editions we have literally gone all around the showroom. We've been upstairs into the custom lounge, we've spent time in the saloon, but a lot of you commented and asked for slightly more affordable guitars and we wanted to honour that, and I thought it would be quite interesting to explore purely what's in the Peach Saloon showroom. So this is kind of the epicenter of the store. This is where there's a huge wealth and variety of different brands and price points, and today we're going to kind of exclude some of the more boutique high-end stuff that we've previously focused on, with the intent of getting some slightly more affordable, and I'd actually like to try and find a wider cross-section of different styles of guitars as well. So without further ado, let's bash down these saloon doors and head in to the heart of the Peach Guitars store. Follow me. Now, this is a site that you've probably seen a number of times already, but I don't think it ever gets any less impressive when you first walk in and you take in not only the scale of the size of the room, but also the scale of the amount of instruments that are in here and the variety of them as well. So there's so much stuff to take in right away, and met with this, I said straight away we weren't going to do any boutique high-end stuff, but facing me right now is a glorious selection of Sir guitars and Two-Rock and Dr. Z amplifiers. Beautiful, but not quite fitting for today's theme. So we've got these mini little kind of target displays of different brands. I though want to go into the heart of the store, which is more the kind of, there's the whole Fender wall here, we've got the Gibson stage to explore, we've got Epiphone at the back, we've got Music Man in the back corner, we've got Gretsch upstairs, we've got PRS upstairs. I'm not going to just list everything that's in here, but my point is that there's a whole total wealth of different brands to explore, and it's kind of embedded in their own little section, so there's a lot to get through. But I'm going to pick 5, in the spirit of these videos, 5 different guitars, and as I mentioned, I do want to kind of cover a lot of different ground and maybe some stuff that I wouldn't have done in the past. So I know I'm going to get into Fender world, but I'm not going to do that right now. This is quite an eye-catching piece though, right here on this pillar. Charvel. So I think in one of the previous videos I did pull out a Charvel, but it was one of the more retro designed Charvels. And I'm curious about what they're doing these days, because they've really expanded what they do. It's not just about those kind of 80s shred machines anymore. They still make those guitars, but you've got stuff like this, Pro Mod Plus DK24. So it's kind of it's in the lineage of the Jackson Dinky and that kind of design, with 24 fret S-style body, 2 humbucking pickups, 2 Duncans in there, Wilkinson trem. They're big old frets, they might even be stainless steel frets. So this is kind of like a bit more of a contemporary design from Charvel, and it's not something I've explored before. I love Charvel neck profiles, so I think this is going to marry up quite well. A more modern sound and electronics with a nice comfortable, slightly more retro Charvel kind of neck profile. So I think that's a good first pick. Interesting colour as well, Midnight Ocean quilted maple. That was an easy first one. I'm going to put it back and we're going to skiffle around some more and find some other choices. So Music Man guitars. This is a world I haven't explored for a while. Actually, these are the Sterling ranges. So these are the slightly more affordable guitars that are still inspired by the USA-made Music Man collections. There's loads of John Petrucci signature guitars, Jason Richardson signature guitars, St. Vincent signature guitar. I do really like all these Sterlings as well, like the more S-style classic Cutlass guitars, some interesting colours. There's some Lukes, always a fan of a Luke. There's an Axis, always a fan of an Axis as well. I might come back to one of these Sterling Axis guitars, because I'm curious to see how the Sterling range compares with the Music Man ranges that I'm a little bit more familiar with, but we'll come back to that. Epiphone. Now we have actually covered Epiphones quite a lot recently. We've done those, the vintage collections with the juniors and the specials. We did a video on those, for example. But it's such a rich company with so many different instrument designs. I was straight away caught out by the Jeff Beck Oxblood Les Paul, but I think we may have covered that recently. These are pretty cool. These custom Widow Les Pauls. But I just want something different still. I don't want to just play it safe. I'd like to move to something a little bit more outlandish perhaps. And I feel like a Sheraton. We played this Gem Archer Sheraton in a recent video, and I want to see what the standard Sheraton model in that lovely natural finish. I love a semi-hollow guitar, and I think Epiphone makes some of the best. So there's number 2. We'll come back to that. Epiphone Sheraton. We've talked about Gibson a bunch recently, that we've shown you so many of their wonderful guitars from the USA Standard collection, the Les Paul Standards. I'm sure we've talked about SGs. There's lovely 335s up the top there, but given that I've just picked an Epiphone Sheraton, it's probably a little bit too similar. 330, a big fan of a 330 or Epiphone Casino. That's actually a really, really nice example of a 330. But I've snookered myself because I picked that Sheraton. But that's fine, I'm going to honour that choice. We're going to stay there. I think that might be the downstairs done for the time being. Let's go upstairs, check out even more brands. There's a lot more kind of contemporary stuff up there, stuff that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm going to push myself out of my comfort zone. We're going to find some cool new things. Follow me up the stairs, please. Okay, so we have been up here before, and I remember picking out some of the PRS. We picked out an S2 semi-hollow in the past, and I think we did some Gretsch stuff as well. I mean, it's always a treat to see particularly what Gretsch is doing. I think I remarked on this before, like I love their sparkle finish. There's slightly more, when they put a little bit more into their classic guitar designs in terms of their finishes, they apply some slightly more luxurious finish styles, you might say, like the real quilted, heavily quilted maple top on that, for example. Stuff that you might not have seen from Gretsch as a standard idea in the past is now a standard thing. I really like that. Duesenbergs, actually, this is one that I'm tempted to delve into again. I haven't played a Duesenberg guitar for years at this point, and I remember they have this really, really nice character. It's very different, even though aesthetically it does put you in mind of certain other brands. I think they have their own character, and I'd like to explore that a little bit. This one right here, I think, on the end, this white velvet Starplayer TV, so that's probably their most popular model. I love that colour configuration, the gold hardware with the black and the white finish. There's our number 3. Alright, so that was a little explore of upstairs. There's so much stuff to try and cover, as I mentioned before, but there's just not enough time in the day. I'm actually seeing more stuff on the pillars as I'm coming downstairs now, so there's another Duesenberg, some really nice Fenders. Revolta, that's a brand I haven't seen for a while. You know what? Just having seen them from across the way there, these JTGs, I think I've teased this in at least 2 videos now, that we were going to explore the JTG, which is the more affordable range from Tyler guitars. We've shown a bunch of the real high-end premium Tyler models recently, but I have not yet got to plug in one of those JTG guitars, so I think it's about time that I do, in the spirit of this is their natural home in the saloon. That one in particular, that black metallic, I've wanted to play that guitar for ages. Let's make it happen today. So, I think we might be about there. No, I did say I want to pick out Fender. Let's pick one more Fender guitar. And I'm going to actually play this one a little bit more safe, I think. I want to stick with something. I love kind of the benchmark for me, and I think a lot of guitar players, is what Fender's doing with their American Standard series, if you like. So it used to be the American Standard, it's now the American Professional, and they have these American Professional Classics. I don't think I've played one of these yet, so let's grab one. This Sherwood green looks nice to me. Telly, can never go wrong with a Telly. I think that's going to be a wrap on our 5 for today. So let's round all those guitars up, get them in the studio, plug them in, and I'll meet you there. Okay folks, welcome to the studio. So I've pulled all the guitars in. Let's start out with ground zero for me, which is the Fender Telecaster. Now I just want to quickly run through a few things that I feel a Telecaster should do. It's one of the most versatile guitars, despite being one of the most simplistic designs of all time. We all know this, but there's several staple sounds I think Tele should be able to cop. So let me just run through a few, and we'll see how this American Professional Classic does. Let's start with this. it does that percussive, open, clean thing, it does also, let's see how it does the spanky bridge pickup thing. And, crucially, in my opinion, a good telly should rock as well. So let's see how it does that. So a couple of the other standout specs that I have printed on the guitar quite helpfully. Coastline 63 Telecaster pickups, so 63 makes sense, it's a nice little mid-sweet spot between the 50s brighter, more aggressive pickups and the late 60s mellower, more mid-rangey pickups. I think you heard that in some of the, particularly the clean examples at the start. And also we have medium jumbo frets, fairly standard, par for the course stuff. So I don't think much more needs to be said about this really. I was really pleased that I picked one of these American professional classic Telecasters. It kind of delivered exactly what I hoped that it would and what I expected it would. And I think if you're looking for a great standard Telecaster or Stratocaster and you don't want to contend with too many bells and whistles and extra features and modernizations and things like that, but you still want something that feels era appropriate for the era that we're currently living in and guitars that are currently being made, I think this strikes the right balance of all of those things. It gives you some of the vintage sensibilities without being too specific and proud about some of those vintage correct things. If you want that, there are plenty of other models from Fender to satisfy that. But this gives you some of that, and some of the modern stuff strikes the perfect balance in between. Guitar number 1, done. Let's move on to the second choice. Okay, so something a little bit different for guitar number 2. I think this was the first one I picked out there actually. And it did catch my eye because of this quilted maple. I was curious about what Charvel is able to do in this space, because this is not a kind of field of guitar I'm that familiar with, these kind of more contemporary designs, like 24 frets, these slightly more modern design ideals, but I love Charvel for their necks. I always have done, and this one doesn't disappoint either. So it's got this really cool dark roasted maple, feels very, very comfortable. It's a very modern flat profile, nice big frets. As I mentioned before, I think they're stainless steel, so it kind of puts me in mind of what you would expect from a brand like Sir, even at that higher price point. This is a nice touch, the stainless steel frets. They add a bit of zing and brightness to the tone, but they also don't wear out, so you kind of get them as you like them, and then they're good to go for the lifespan pretty much of the guitar. And this configuration actually really works for me. It's about at my limit of how modern I like to go with guitar designs, but you've got two fairly high output Seymour Duncan pickups, full shred in the bridge, and Alnico Pro 2 in the neck. It's got this Wilkinson sort of part locking trem design with locking tuners, so it's not like a full Floyd Rose affair where you have a locking nut and fine tuners. That could be a little bit restrictive, I find. This is the right balance because it still stays in tune great. You can do all that tremolo stuff you want to do, but it feels a little bit more natural, it's easier to tune and so on. And then electronically, you have a 5-way selector switch, volume and a tone. And one thing I like about this, and I think this applies to a few Charvel and Fender products in general, is that when the tone is up full, it's actually out of the circuit. And you notice there's a slight detent. When you turn it down, you can actually feel it click into place, so that when you turn the tone down, it becomes active again. So I like that it's fully bypassed when it's up. I think a lot of players tend to just leave it that way anyway. But let's explore a little bit what this can do. So you heard alluded to at the start there what kind of things Charvel at least was originally intended to be used for. But these are probably one of the most versatile guitar designs out there right now. And even with this full-on crunchy tone, which compared to the Tele sound, I haven't touched the amp at all, compared to the Tele you hear just how much higher output this can be on the bridge pickup. So it can do a little bit of everything. It cleans up really nice. All the controls are effective and just what you'd expect them to be and what you would want out of a guitar like this. And actually, it's so comfortable to play. It's so easy to play a guitar like this. I find myself being a bit more used to more vintage style instruments, digging into this quite a bit. And it can actually facilitate that. It can take that. But really, this wants to be just a sleek playing machine. So if you have a lighter touch and you like to play with a bit more gain and compression and stuff like that, a guitar like this is perfect for that. It's just so effortless to play it, and yet it's still familiar enough for someone like me to be able to get on with this quite comfortably and get some tones that I'm happy with. So another fine instrument. I think it's time to move on to number 3. I'd forgotten what a good Duesenberg can do and what it can sound like. So this being a Starplayer TV, this is probably their most popular model, always has been. These pickups, despite being full humbucking pickups, they're so open and clear and articulate. And I find that wherever I am, particularly in the middle position, if I play a big, full-bodied 6-note chord, every note rings out with clarity. Yeah, every single note has a roundness to it as well as just a brightness. Some guitars have one or the other, but this means that you can play these chords with a sound like I have, a kind of crunchy sound, with the volume backed off a little bit, and you can utilize these coil splits on these switches here if you wish. So if both pickups are split, you get this really, really bell-like tone. You can add in the full humbucking tone if you want to go a little bit more, full-bodied. And being a semi-hollow guitar as well, you get all this sustain. It's really lively feeling. So it can do the rock thing, it can do the full-bodied neck pickup thing, and most crucially to me anyway, it's always the test of a guitar for me, is how well does it clean up, how well does it get that chimey, sparkly thing happening, especially if you have an already crunchy amp tone. And this, with a bit of delay and reverb, I just don't really want to stop playing this guitar. It's really, really lovely, kind of does a bit of everything, and it looks $1,000,000. That's guitar number 3, let's do number 4. Big old semi-hollow body guitar with these mini humbucking pickups. Sounds great though. They've got a really unique bite to them. It's kind of like a halfway house between a P90 and a full-size humbucker. And I remember these guitars, I think I remember seeing a Sheraton in like an old Epiphone catalogue, and there's a picture of John Lee Hooker playing one, and I thought, that's pretty cool. I hope I one day could be anywhere near as cool as that. Of course, I am not, but in playing this guitar, I can see why the great man would have chosen something like this, because it's got that kind of vibe to it that feels like it's just an extension of your playing. It's very, very natural. It's very articulate as well. So even though you've got these big fat tones through this Friedman amp, the neck pickup is really thick, but every note still rings out, and I can play single notes and they still sound big. And then when I play chords, it doesn't just turn to mush either. So if I play that sound again, just with the volume backed off a little bit, So it does that kind of swampy thing, and then if I crank the volume, turn the tone down a little bit, as a pure kind of animalistic blues rock machine, I think this is a really, really nice choice. It looks great, feels great to play. I really love the details that Epiphone put into these guitars, like the Casino, and this is kind of a level up on the Casino, I would say, with the staggered cool trapeze tailpiece, the mini humbuckers, the gold appointments, the fret markers. Everything's just kind of cool with this, though sadly it does not elevate my own level of cool along with it. Guitar number 5. Right, so guitar number 5, we finally got it into the studio. It's this, the James Tyler JTG. So, as I understand it, this was introduced around the time that we actually took Tyler on as a brand, so a year or two back, as a slightly more affordable price point for James Tyler's designs. So it still incorporates a lot of the same sensibilities that the more expensive USA-made Tyler guitars have. You know, fairly obviously, the designs, the aesthetics. Same really comfortable neck profile. It's very satinized, it's very comfortable. Nice big frets. HSS pickup configuration in this guitar. I did that backwards, HSS. And this has a somewhat simplified version of their famous preamp circuit. So, if you've seen our video on Tyler guitars before, and if you haven't, you should check out the link in the description below to that video, which explains a bit more about the brand in depth and what they do and what they're capable of with their designs and their electronics. But this has a pared down kind of version of that, which is preamp on and off here with this little push-push switch, volume and tone, and then this black control is a mid boost. So you will have heard that in effect at the start there. And the great thing about a guitar like this is that you can have volume rolled down, nice single coil, cleaner sound, and they're really fat sounding single coils as well. So if I get that kind of sound with a bit of reverb and delay, you'll hear. And then I can blend in a bit of that preamp and mid boost to fatten that up. And then just disable the preamp again. So it kind of takes you to like a neck pickup humbucking tone almost. It's so thick and fat, and it's variable. So when that's engaged, even without the mid boost, you get a little bit of a high frequency boost. and then you bring in the mid-boost to taste. And it's particularly effective also on the bridge humbucker. So if I start without the preamp and turn the volume up, you hear I've got a fairly moderately crunchy tone. So it's something I talk about all the time. It's super important to me to be able to do a lot from the guitar, do a lot with a little, and I think this guitar proves that point once again, just with a fairly crunchy amp tone, using the pickup selections that you have on hand, the preamp, and in this case the mid boost. You can get a lot just from the guitar, and it feels really natural that way. It's not like a channel switching situation or just turning pedals on and off. You have more dynamic control, I think, and that's why so many players use these guitars back in the 80s, in the 90s and so on, and they're kind of having a resurgence now, I think, because players are looking for that same kind of tactile control. So guitar number 5, this JTG, I'm glad I finally got to play it. I think it delivers on what I expected of it. So folks, there we are. We've made it through all 5 on the list, and I hope that this scratched the itch for a few of you, as well as it did for myself, to entertain some slightly more affordable options. Now, I'd like to know which of these 5 was your personal favourite, and also I'd like to know what you'd like to see from us next. Would you like us to go even more affordable, or should we return to form and explore some more of the high-end stuff once again? I'm going to leave it to you. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this video, please remember to like, please remember to subscribe as well if you want to see more content from us in the future, including part 5 of this series when we get to it. But until next time, thank you very much, as always, for watching. Any more info that you'd like on any of these guitars or anything else that we do here at Peach will be linked down in the description below, so head to our website. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.